If a small flock of cartoon bluebirds didn't help you get dressed this morning, that just means you haven't yet listened to Fine Tuning with Jim Hill and Drew Taylor. No, the black dress slacks, please. Thank you. And now, Jim Hill.
Welcome to Fine Tuning with Drew Taylor, your one-stop shop when it comes to animation news and commentary. I'm Drew's co-host, entertainment writer Jim Hill, and he and I are recording the show on Friday, March 29th, which is just after the GLAAD Media Awards. And did you get to see that last night at all, or?
I didn't get to see it, but I have just finished watching the first season of She-Ra, which I feel like was kind of its own GLAAD Awards. I was pretty amazed at how gay that show is and how great it is. So, I'm getting ready for season 2, so I just wanted to tell you that I'm all caught up now.
Good. I have to admit, Alice and I watched that that's Netflix, right? Or
Yes.
No, I really enjoyed that, but circling back on the award show last night, Steven Universe, Cartoon Network's just finished its 5th season. Became the first ever animated series to win the Outstanding Kids and Family Programming Award at the GLAAD Media Awards. It's only the second year, though, for the category, and I guess the Disney Channel Andy Mack took the inaugural award.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
So Steven Universe has kind of been on the radar from the get-go because, of course, Rebecca Sugar, who had done all of that wonderful work on Adventure Time, and got a shot at doing her own show after being a writer and a storyboard artist on Penn's show. And, from day one, it's been this wonderfully inventive, genuinely kind of loopy show that has these wonderful left turns when it comes to characters. Through your friendship with Penn, did you have any interaction with Rebecca at all, or?
No, I never met Rebecca, but I always knew that she was like this kind of like rising star in animation, and he talked very, kindly about her. And I think she kind of took from him how to sort of run a show in a very kind, kind of open way. There's been some scandals that have kind of like plagued children's animation shows recently, and I think, she obviously wanted to stay away from any kind of like bad vibes. And yeah, I think the show is amazing, and it has been since the beginning. It's gotten a little kind of like plotty recently, and it's kind of been harder to follow.
Did you see that piece of animation that was done for the last episode of the 5th season where they actually brought in James Baxter to animate it?
No.
Oh, it's.
How did you not tell me about this, Jim?
I'm sorry. It was out there. I just assumed that everybody had seen it, but you definitely chase this down. It's sort of Steven. There's no other way to describe it. It's Steven sort of merging with himself, but it's this masterful piece of animation. And you're right. It became very, very plotty. And if you turned away for a minute or two, it's like, oh, what's going on? Where's Periodot? I don't understand.
Right.
I guess there's a Steven Universe, the movie, coming this fall on Cartoon Network. And is that in lieu of a 6th season, or? I
don't know. If it's ending and, Star versus the Forces of Evil are ending, it's gonna be a tough animation landscape if those two are going away.
Yeah, I know. But circling back to Penn, and one of the nicer things when Adventure Time ended is that Rebecca wrote that wonderful song for the last episode.
Yeah, that was so great.
I guess she debuted it at Comic-Con, and it was just great footage of this entire room. I don't think it was Hall H, but it was one of the bigger rooms. An entire room in tears. So it was like,
right.
Oh.
Making nerds cry everywhere.
Well, let's switch to news of making nerds happy.
Okay.
The Sausage Party ruling just this week. I'm not going to pretend that Sausage Party was my favorite film, animation-wise. Came out in August of 2016. Look, I'm happy whenever animators and animation artists are hired and out there working. So Sausage Party had a price point of $19 million, made $140 million at the box office. So it actually came into a profit. I mean, it was a financial success, if not a critical success, because you and I both remember those reviews.
Yeah, I was a little baffled by. So, I mean, I'm always happy when animation kind of like goes outside of what we think of it as in sort of Western terms, but yeah, I was.
Yes.
Still figuring that one out. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, but here's the thing, that on the heels of the success of the film, I want to say it was the folks over at Cartoon Brew that actually broke this story, that a lot of the people who had worked on the film, because of the way the language is written, particularly for the Vancouver market, which is, I mean, has all of the gaming companies up there and visual effects houses and, of course, animation studios. Because of the way the language was written, it was like, this is CG work. You don't get overtime. When you're working on the launch of a game, people dream of a 40-hour work week because they typically chained to their desk for 60 hours, 80 hours, whatever. And the animation artists did not see it this way. They got the Canadian government involved. And earlier this week, the British Columbia Employment Standards Branch, they ruled that the animation artists who worked on Sausage Party were, in fact, entitled to receive overtime pay. This past week, I've been circling back on the book Fatal Subtraction. Have you ever read this, Drew?
No, what is that?
It's the book about the Eddie Murphy movie Coming to America, where, remember, political columnist Art Buchwald had written a script about an African prince who had come to America, and evidently he was able to prove that Paramount had, in fact, seen the script, it had been in the building, and he was entitled to some of the profits for Coming to America, which was a hugely successful film until this judgment came down. And then suddenly, in the grand tradition of Hollywood bookkeeping, it's like, oh no, it's still in the red. We have not made any money yet.
Right.
I'm just kind of worried that when it comes to Sausage Party, are people now frantically behind the scene cooking the books?
Well, the ruling was pretty substantial, wasn't it? I mean, it was over $100 million or something, wasn't it, to the workers?
Yeah, and it's one of those things where it's like, when you make a $100 million ruling and a film has only made $140 million, it's like, oh, good luck with that.
Right.
And that's got to be split between the folks at Nitrogen and Annapurna and Point Grey and also Columbia Pictures, and I guess Sony distributed and all that. Oh, speaking of Nitrogen, though, you were mentioning that just this afternoon we had some news break for them, right?
Yeah, that they've debuted the first poster for their Addams Family animated film that's coming out on October 11th. Mm-hmm. Very interesting look for the characters and the movie in general. It seems like they're kind of trying to capture the Charles Addams New Yorker cartoon spirit a little bit.
Yeah, it's definitely stylized.
Mm-hmm.
I'm one of those people who likes to actually see animated characters move.
Right.
I get what you're saying. It does have that pseudo, if you've seen the cartoons of the collections of, the work that Charles Addams did versus the television show from the 1960s and the two films from the late 80s, early 90s.
I'm optimistic. Did you see that Bette Midler is doing a voice?
I just saw that. Grandmama. Oh my God.
Yeah. And
Charlize Theron is Morticia?
Yeah. And Oscar Isaac is Gomez. It's a pretty stacked cast.
Okay. And you were also pointing out they have a release date of October 11th, which I think, as we've talked previously, proved to really be lucrative for Sony Pictures Animation, at least with the first two Hotel Transylvania films. But then 3 was released as a summer film. Have we heard anything about 4 yet? Do they have a release date for that one? Or
well, remember that one's Christmas.
Oh God,
that's going to be a Christmas movie. Yeah.
Okay. Seeing as we're talking about dates, folks, turns out the show, again, when it gets posted, it's going to be on April 2nd. But the day before the April 1st, that was when it was first known as Movie-Toon Studios. Eventually became Disneytoon Studios opened, and you had a front row seat for at least a couple of years of the operation.
Well, I mean, I had a front row seat for its inevitable decline, really. But yeah, I mean, I worked one building over from this building, so they always had better snacks. So I'd come over and kind of walk around, and there would be weird stuff from the archive that was kind of sitting around. Like they had the Captain EO ship. The model.
Oh my God!
Was just in a glass case, because I think you and I have done a couple of press days there together too.
Do you remember they actually had the cauldron from the Black Cauldron?
Yes, they had that.
This was in the early days of CG, and so what they do is they do these photo captures of these props. I mean, for example, they had Amos Slade's car from Fox and the Hound in that same display.
Yep.
Oh my God. Yeah.
And it was just in this glass case next to like a TV with an Xbox attached to it. You know, it was totally out of place.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I loved it. I loved looking at all that stuff. And, you know,
This was one of the buildings that Imagineering swallowed during the campus expanded in both directions when they were building Epcot. And I want to say this was the building that they built coffins in.
excuse me?
No, seriously, this used to be a coffin factory. And to go in there and how they'd blown out the roof and it was wonderful and light and this beautiful space, and you could see how this would be a great place to work. And that was kind of the heartbreaker of, you know, when they had this shut down. But we're getting ahead of ourselves here, folks.
Well, yeah, we are.
This is the second half of the show. So tell you what, we're going to take a quick commercial break and then come back and talk about the history of Disney movie tunes.
This episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. Psst, healthcare pros, word's out, and it's too good to keep quiet. Look, LinkedIn is revolutionizing job hunting, making it possible to search by specialty, shift preference, and salary. Endless scrolling is out. Whether it's a mental health therapist or dental hygienist, finding the perfect role is faster and easier than ever. Head to linkedin.com/healthcare and start your search today.
This podcast is brought to you by Carvana. Carvana lets you buy your next car on your terms. Explore a massive inventory online, filter for what matters, and find your perfect match. Then choose delivery to your home or pick it up at one of Carvana's iconic car vending machines. Every car also comes with a 7-day money-back guarantee, so you can make sure it's the right fit. Buy your car on Carvana. Delivery or pickup fees may apply. Limitations and exclusions may apply. See our 7-day return policy at Carvana.com.
Carvana.
Before we get started here, we've got the other big news, which is Mickey's PhilharMagic, after years, is now finally going to open at Disney California Adventure. What's your take on this?
I thought it was very weird. It's weird that they're just kind of plopping it in there. I mean, I understand why. Galaxy's Edge, you know, people are going to have to go somewhere.
No, I agree.
But...
Yeah.
You know, there's like sort of no kind of like pomp and circumstance to this. It's just sort of there. It's just going to seemingly just be there one day. I don't think there's going to be any theming. I was just in that building for when I was doing Minnie's Moonlit Madness, and it's just like an anonymous building at this point. I think they were doing like previews of Captain Marvel or something in there, or meet and greets. But I think, you know, for you and I think the most disappointing thing about it is it really means that Muppets is never going back in that theater ever. I mean, the animatronics are gone, the stage stuff is gone, so I think that's the most maybe disappointing thing. As much as I love Mickey's PhilharMagic, that's it for me. I don't know how you feel about it.
I was just talking with somebody at the Disney Products, Experiences, and Parks, an envelope licking. I don't know what other department has now under Bob Chapek's ballywick, but according to people in products, the Muppets have never made this much money for the Disney company. The Muppet Baby show that debuted on Disney Junior this time last year it is a huge hit. And between the baby clothes and the plush toys and the bath toys and all that, this is now a genuine revenue stream. And I know that there is supposedly a new Muppet show in the works for Disney Plus. In fact, we're 10 days out now from the big announcement on the 11th.
Yes, yeah.
Pop the hood and tell us what's going on there.
Yeah, I don't know what the status of those are, because I know one of them was sort of based off of a tour that has yet to materialize. So yeah, we'll see.
Okay. But no, you're right about PhilharMagic, and you've nailed why it's open. That with as many bodies as are showing up, the anticipation that when they close Disneyland, they have to send people somewhere. And it would be helpful on a summer where Bugs Land is no longer there. So you've lost those 5 rides worth of capacity. So a 12-minute long movie that you can bump 4 audiences through every hour, that'll help take some of the heat off.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
For years now, there have been these discussions about freshening PhilharMagic. This debuted at the Magic Kingdom in 2003. And when you look at CG from 2003,
It's a little rough.
It's a little rough.
Yeah.
And when you think about Glenn Keane actually used Ariel in this film, her appearance in this film is sort of a dry run for what he was going to try to do with Rapunzel.
Yeah. I remember this was a big research and development sort of project for a lot of those animators, right? About like trying to see if they could bring these characters to dimensional life. It's sort of like the stopgap in between the original animated movies and these live action remakes. Sort of like, can we do it? Can we pull it off? And mostly, I would say, is the answer if you watch the movie. But it's amazing that there haven't been, I was asking you before the show, if there were ever any like updates, but there never have been. It's the same animation from back then.
Yeah. When you get to the Aladdin sequence, the whole new world, you look at Jasmine, you look at Aladdin, they're just this side of Rankin Bass. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with Rankin Bass, but it's just sort of, that was the cheat. That was the place they had to do this. And this opens October of 2003. And if we jump back to January of 2003, that was when David Staten showed up in Florida at Walt Disney Studios of Florida. And it's, hey, we're closing you. And, by the way, we're becoming an all CG company, so get with the program. So for this to be one of the first things out the door right after that announcement was always fascinating. But we promised we'd talk about the history of Movie Tunes and Disney, Disneytoon
Studio.
So let's get to that. Okay, so April 1st, 1990, company announces that they're launching this brand new division of Walt Disney Animation Studios, and they're going to be operating out of a facility in Glendale. And I guess we should have found out where that facility was, because I don't think it was the Casket Factory then. But the first movie out of the gate that goes out under this title really has nothing to do with the folks in Glendale. It's DuckTales, the movie, Treasure of the Lost Lamp, and that was done by Disney Animation in France.
Which is no longer around.
And then, the very next thing that goes out under their name, May of 1994, is The Return of Jafar, which, let's be honest here, Drew, that's really, the first 3 or 4 episodes of the Aladdin, the animated series?
Yeah. But do you remember when that thing came out? That was a huge deal.
It was.
It was crazy how much heat was around that. Even without Robin Williams, it was insane.
Well, in fact, that's Dan Castellaneta did the genie for that movie as well as the bulk of the series. We jump ahead a year, 1995. And we get a real movie. We get the Goofy movie. Now, mind you, a bunch of studios worked on this one. Disney Animation Australia, Disney Animation Canada, and Disney Animation France. But that one got a theatrical release. And again, based on how good the work was on that, in fact, that was when they decided, okay, we're going to give Disney Animation France its very own feature. And they ended up doing Tarzan. We were just talking about Aladdin, so August of 96. The next thing out the door from Disney Movie Tunes is Aladdin and the King of Thieves.
That's a real movie. It's a real movie.
Animated by Australia and Disney Animation Japan. And this is the one where Robin Williams comes back. In fact, I guess they threw out... Dan Castellaneta had recorded everything for this thing. And...
Oh, really?
Yeah. And it's just sort of like, thank you, Dan. And out the window it goes. And now it's like, okay, it's a going concern. And so on the back of the heat of Return to Jafar, the number of units, the VHS cassettes that they sold, it's like, oh, let's come to mama. So the next thing we get is Pooh's Grand Adventure, The Search for Christopher Robin. And this is animated by Disney Animation Japan. In fact, Disney Animation Japan, if it's a Pooh project, invariably, it's the folks in Japan who do it. In fact, in 2000, when the Tigger movie came out, they're the folks who did that. And
they do. I love Disney Animation. Disney Animation Japan seem to have some really talented people.
Absolutely, absolutely. Do you remember the story associated with that film that they brought Paul Winchell in for one day? Because again, it's the Tigger movie, and so they bring Paul in to start his first day of recording, and they're sitting in the booth, and as he starts doing the lines, that everyone starts getting grimmer and grimmer because Paul had basically blown out his voice at that point. And at the end of the day, they thanked him. And as soon as he walked out of the booth, they said, like, get his agent. We'll pay him for his full check for as if he recorded the entire film, but we need to get somebody else in here. And that's when Jim Cummings basically won the gig of voicing both Winnie the Pooh and Tigger. And I don't know if you ever heard the joke that John Fiedler, the original voice of Piglet, made.
No.
Basically, I am so glad you can't do Piglet's voice. So to run through this litany of films, so we get a lot of twos. We get September 2000, we get Little Mermaid 2, Return to the Sea. February, 4 months later, we get Lady and the Tramp 2, Scamp's Big Adventure, and then jump ahead to February of 2002, and we get to Return to Neverland, which, again, they sent that one out theatrically, and here's Disney Animation Australia, Animation Canada, Disney Animation Japan, and also Cornerstone Animation. And a lot of good animation during this same period. You had Roy Disney and Stanley Gold, who were like, you understand what you're doing to animation by releasing all of these direct-to-video sequels, is you're making what we do less special. If we jump ahead to November of 2003, that was one of the flags that Roy planted in the ground when he was going after Eisner would save Disney, to the effect of, because you guys are being so nakedly greedy and making movies like 101 Dalmatians to Patch's London Adventure.
How dare you, Jim? How dare you?
So, okay, we jump ahead to March of 2004. There's the big shareholders meeting in Philadelphia, and he gets a 47% vote of no confidence. And as a result, Eisner gives up his chairmanship. I mean, he keeps, he's still the CEO, but he gives up his chairmanship. And he also agrees that in basically a year or so's time, he will step away from the Disney company. And we still see all of these prequels and sequels, Pooh's Heffalump movie, Tarzan 2, Lilo and Stitch 2, Stitch is a Glitch coming out. But September 30th, 2005, Eisner resigns. Iger comes on as the big cheese, and then we get one more of the sort of classic films or sequels that I don't any of us were expecting or needed. It's something, Kronk's New Groove. And don't get me wrong, I love Patrick Warburton. But again, it was just sort of like, did anybody walk away from The Emperor's New Groove with, there were so many unanswered questions? It's like,
yeah, I've tried to watch Kronk's New Groove a couple of times when it's on TV. It is rough stuff.
I know. But okay, so that's December 13th, 2005. January 25th, 2006, Disney buys Pixar Animation for $7.4 billion. And one of the things that happened during that is that John Lasseter became the chief creative officer of Pixar Animation Studios, of Walt Disney Animation Studios, and he also began calling the shots over at Disneytoon. And John walked in the door, and there were a number of films. I mean, I remember one afternoon being someplace I really wasn't supposed to be. And I remember coming across a whiteboard that listed the next 5 years of films. And there was The Aristocats 2, Ugly Duckling Story, Chicken Little 2. They were still working on Dumbo 2 at that point, which I guess had been announced as far back as 2001 as part of the 60th anniversary of Dumbo. And the one that I really, to this day, I can't wrap my mind around was the Disney Dwarves series. When you worked at Disney,
I remember that.
Oh my God. It was, you got the backstory on the Seven Dwarves and how Dopey had been raised by a human family. Each of the dwarves were supposed to be a king within their own world, and they had, and I guess that's the conceit of the whole backstory of dwarves, is that you're not supposed to know that, when Snow White shows up at the cottage, the dwarves have all been sort of clued in to the fact that the evil queen is going to make an attempt to take her out. And so they all are kings in disguise who come together in this humble cottage to save her. I remember they had this one piece of art, and Drew, I swear to God, a friend of mine who worked in the project gave to me, and it's somewhere in this recycled paper heap I call a house. But it's of Grumpy sitting in a throne But the thing is, it's grumpy in the Conan the Barbarian pose from the end of the first Conan film when he's
Amazing.
the aged king, and it's teasing the
King Conan.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
Yeah.
But it's that exact same pose, it's that exact same look, but he's grumpy. And it's like, someday I will find it and we will put it up online, and then Disney's lawyers will descend on us like wolves and kill us. But that got canceled because John, look, can we make good movies? How about we try to make some good movies? And there was the stuff he just couldn't shut down because it was already in the pipeline. So Bambi 2, Brother Bear 2, Fox and the Hound 2. And even then, though, they had announced the Disney Fairies product line, which will be a success like our Disney Princess line, and Brittany's going to be the voice of Tinkerbell in the first movie. And that, I don't entirely know what the story is. I don't know if it was a story-driven decision or they weren't getting what they wanted in the booth, but eventually Mae Whitman ends up as the new voice of Tinkerbell, and we get the first Tinkerbell movie in October of 2008, and then for a while there, we kind of get them like clockwork. Every fall, there's 2009, Tinkerbell and the Lost Treasure, and 2010, there's Tinkerbell and the Great Fairy Rescue, and in between, there wasn't a new one again till 2012, Tinkerbell's Secret of the Wings, but in between there were specials for the Disney Channel or ABC, I want to say the Great Fairy Games and the Great Fairy Bake Off or that sort of thing. But again, this is about the time you're there in the building or the building adjacent.
Yes, building adjacent.
Can you talk a bit about, because obviously, the folks at Disneytoon didn't want to be one-trick ponies, so that's why we saw the Planes series. How did they describe that again? From the world above Cars?
Yeah. Well, and both of those movies were theatrical releases, too, which is kind of amazing.
Yeah.
It was just very interesting to watch that building kind of like slow down, and then you would hear, they're doing educational films, and then, Moana and Wreck-It Ralph 2 were in that building for a long time, and it was like, oh, okay, so what's going on? And nobody really said anything, and there were, what's really exceptional is that they announced the Tinkerbell movie after Never Beast, I forget what it was called, but then they also, just at the last D23, which was only 2 years ago, showed footage from the third Planes movie, which was like a Jets kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's weird that they just kind of like pulled the plug, especially with the streaming service. Like, you'd think that you would need these kind of assets, but maybe not.
I totally agree. And I guess the thing that really broke my heart is that if you look at Planes, Fire and Rescue, I mean, look, the original Planes movie, a little shaky. We didn't have a story, but we had to make a movie anyway, so we made a movie.
Right.
On the other hand, Planes, Fire and Rescue, I thought they did a great job with. In fact, I think that Planes, Fire and Rescue has some of the scariest fire sequences in Hollywood history. I mean, the team that did the actual fire stuff for that thing really was doing some spectacular work. I mean, this is backdraft quality stuff, and
I agree.
To put it in a kid's film, so it's like, well, good night. Hope the house doesn't catch on fire. Some interesting choices there.
No, I agree. I remember writing my review of that one, and I said that this idea of like that they introduced sort of mortality into this world was really interesting and cool.
I agree. And speaking of mortality, the movie comes out on July 18th, and on August 11th, 60 employees are cut from Disneytoon Studios. And then it was kind of this weird slow motion death. I mean, Never Beast comes out in January of 2015, and then it's not till June of last year that Disney finally officially closes Disneytoon Studios. I don't get it. At that point, they knew that Disney Plus was just over the horizon. Why, if you were bringing in this new subscription streaming service where you were looking for content, why would you not keep that up and running? I mean, or are we once again sort of circling back on the blue sky idea?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it's funny, and you'll appreciate this kind of detail that people really knew that when Toon Studio was over was when the chef that Lasseter had brought in to like make the cafeteria better at Toon Studio was fired.
Oh.
That's when people knew, like, okay, so now it's all just the same from the commissaries from the other studios. It's over. Like, this is no longer something, this is no longer a place where John Lasseter is coming, once a week to take meetings. It is done. So I thought that was kind of an interesting aside.
That's a very interesting canary in the coal mine.
Yes, when the chef is fired, when the really good chef is fired, you're in trouble. Yeah.
Oh, this is why I love doing this show with you. Okay. Well, okay, we were talking about Jets, the planes sequel, whatever, that never got made. But speaking of flying animated things, Dumbo is opening in theaters around the country right now.
Have you seen it?
No.
Oh.
But we're going to try to get to see it this weekend. And one of the reasons I want to see it is Danny Devito. And at the junket, you got this amazing interview with Danny.
You are one of the few actors you're in an adaptation of a Disney animated movie, and you've been a voice in a Disney animated movie.
That's right.
You were
Phil Tatis.
Yeah. What do you remember from that experience?
Oh, I remember that being a great experience. And also, a big thing is that what's fun is when you're talking to people and some kid will go, I recognize your voice.
Yeah.
I say, what? And they say, they know Hercules, and that's really fun. I've done a couple of, I did My Little Pony years ago because my daughter was into it, and so I played a part in that, the first, I think, My Little Pony. And then Lorax was fun, too.
Oh, yeah.
So, I've done that kind of thing. It's really good. Right now I'm doing another Disney movie called One and Only Ivan, and I play a dog.
Oh, with Angelina Jolie.
Yeah, with.
Do you remember when Jack Nicholson, your buddy, was also in Hercules? Do you know that he was originally Hades?
Oh.
Did he ever talk to you about that? No. Okay,
no.
yeah.
He was in it?
He was going to be in it, and then he asked for, I think, something like a percentage of the merchandise.
They offered
But you can see actual artwork of him as Hades.
Oh, yeah?
It's really interesting,
okay.
with the sunglasses and everything.
Oh, yeah. Try to use his image, I guess, There's a big thing about Jack. It's like he's iconic, and I think that if you're going to put him up there with sunglasses and looking like him, you probably should give him a piece of the action.
I think his deal on Batman was very favorable, but
lucrative, as they say.
Yes. How did this project come to be?
Well, Tim has been working on this for a while, I imagine, and he called me a couple of years ago. I was doing The Price on Broadway. And he said, what is your schedule? What do you do? And I was tied up with The Price for a few months, and we just hoped for the best because he thought we almost overlapped, and I wouldn't leave the play, and it worked out great. And I don't think I would be really happy with myself right now if I wasn't in Dumbo. You know what I mean?
Right.
It was just like having the family together again with Tim and with Michael. That was really special for us, and we had such a good time on the set. And and then of course Big Fish was like a similar character, but of course I was a werewolf in that, and that was my first nude scene. And but Max Medici is really special because he, his family, his circus, his dear to his heart. He wants to do everything he can to make ends meet, keep the circus afloat in the tough times.
Why does Tim Burton always think about you in relation to circuses?
Well, so far it's been, Batman, and I don't know. I guess we're odd people,
Yeah.
He is and I am, and we like that. Don't excuse my feet.
No, put them up.
Put them up. I think there's a kind of oddity like that he likes and I like about him, and he likes about me. We get along in that way. We're odd people out, kind of. Tim is always perceived as being like a certain way. He's been dealing with it for many years. He deals with it really well. He's actually just funny, outgoing, and sweet, shy, artist.
Right.
Yeah, he's an artist.
What was it like reteaming with Keaton? I mean, you talked earlier about it, kind of egging him on that you were the good guy this time.
Yeah. Keaton and I, we go back to Johnny Dangerously.
Oh, that's
and
right.
He's always been like one of those guys, really good guy. And, when you'd see him around doing whatever, whether it was at some function or, wherever we bumped into each other, we always had really a good feeling about each other. And it was nice. Of course, being the Penguin and his Batman was great. Very happy that I got to do that. And now here we are again. Medici and Vanderveer. Take it on the road.
You haven't talked a lot about your Mars Attacks experience.
It was a great experience. Vegas, baby. What was unique about that one was, of course, working with Tim and being, he said, well, I was going to get killed by a Martian. I thought, well, I'm going to definitely do this movie. And we worked at night in Vegas because we had to have the casinos. I don't know, for some reason, I guess it's obvious that we were shooting at night. We shot like 4 nights, I think, in Vegas. I was only there for 4 nights. And it was really a lot of fun. Very glitzy, very circus-like in a way. It's not the exact, it wasn't a circus. I don't know where we shot. If we shot at Circus, that would have been like, where did we shoot? That's a good question. Because that would make it, then we'd be triangular. What do you call it? Right now we have a circus trilogy going on, right? What do you call that?
What, the circus trilogy?
Well, no, if you've done 4, then you can't call it a circus.
Quadrilogy or
something like that. Yeah. You're the guy with the pad and the beard. You're the one who's supposed to know these answers.
What do you find to be the most sort of satisfying aspect of reteaming with Burton?
I love watching him work.
Okay.
I could go. I don't know if you went to the set. Right?
Yeah, we saw him a little bit.
I stay on the set, like even when I'm not needed.
Yeah.
Just to watch him work because I love watching him put it all together. So, I'm very forward about that. I like with him. I like hanging out at the monitor and watching him paint.
Have you seen the finished movie?
Oh yeah.
So what was the most sort of surprise? Because obviously Dumbo wasn't there.
Yeah, well, I knew it was going to be a beautiful. The people who do this stuff are artists themselves. I mean, I think the people in, I'm not sure the name of the company.
I think MPC
did it. Yeah. So MPC is I'm actually working with them on the one and only Ivan. They're really, it's a pack of, artists in their own right. Everybody from the animators to the, all the people who do and if you have guidance from Tim, who is like a visual artist, that was amazing to see. I saw the elephant in different stages, because they had models of it. They were keeping it secret. They wouldn't show anybody. But I was I would get in the back there and take a look. And I knew it was going to be outrageously wonderful. And, it's beyond my wildest dreams, but it really looks good. I'm very pleased with the way it came out.
Well, thank you so much. It was such a treat to get to talk to you.
Really good to talk to you.
Before we leave the topic of Hercules, have we talked yet about the musical they're trying out this summer as part of the Shakespeare in the Park thing at Central Park?
Oh my God, I want to go so
we
bad.
Have to.
It sounds wonderful. Well, we're gonna have to figure out how to do it.
No, absolutely. I mean, obviously, you're a little busy getting married in the front half of the summer, but
yes, but then afterwards we'll be free.
There we go. And this is going to be at the Public Theater, the Delacorte Theater in Central Park. Performances are going to run from August 31st through September 8th. It's a relatively short run. Do you remember when Alan Menken first talked about this project? And Disney came out immediately and said, in no uncertain terms, there is no Hercules musical in the works. I don't know. I don't know what that guy's talking about.
Right.
Was that sort of classic Disney, as in we didn't announce it, so it didn't happen? Or was he working with the Shakespeare in the Park people to get this going?
Yeah, I have no idea, but it's going to be awesome. I can't wait to see it. It sounds great.
Yeah, I mean, it's him with David Zippel again, David who did the lyrics. The book is being written by Christopher Days, who, by the way, Pulitzer Prize finalist. And I guess Chase Brock is choreographing. I don't know. Oh, a Lear Bassonnet or D. Bassonnet will be directing. So it's in her 7th year with Shakespeare in the Park. No word yet on the cast, but definitely something worth seeking out.
I think we should do a live show in New York some time to this event where we can talk about one of my favorite publicity stunts of all time, the Hercules Week in New York.
Okay.
We have to do that.
All right. We can go to the site of the Warner store, the one store on the parade route that would not turn off its lights. So
yes.
All right. Though again, we were just talking about things we should definitely seek out. And folks, if you want to listen to some really entertaining stuff, you have to chase down Drew's amazing Mission Impossible podcast, Light the Fuse, and you just completed that amazing set of 3 shows with Brad Bird.
Yeah, it was crazy, but it's done now. So we're doing some different things now. We don't have a lot of guests lined up yet, but Charles is having a baby. I'm getting married. It's sort of there's a lot of life stuff going on right now. But please listen to Light the Fuse. And Jim, I was listening to your most recent podcast with Lynn, and the one podcast you forgot was Fine Tuning. So I have to admonish you for that.
Okay, all right. Let me do it right this time. Okay, so on my side of the fence, we have the podcast I do with Len Testa, Disney Dish. We have the Marvelous Disney podcast. We also have Looking at Lucasfilm with Dan Z. In fact, you're going to be doing Star Wars Celebration 2 in Chicago, right? So
yeah, have me on the show, man.
There we
I'm
go.
ready.
There we go. We'll do a recap on the ground right there.
Okay.
We have I Want That with Michelle Valladolid and Fine Tuning, the wonderful show that you are listening to right now. Speaking of which, if you do Drew and I a favor, if you could head over to iTunes and rate and recommend our show, that'd be terrific. Likewise, if you really want to support what we're doing here, head over to Bandcamp and subscribe. We're going to be doing some fun new Bandcamp exclusive shows shortly. Beyond that, I think we're done for today, Drew.
Yeah, I think we covered a lot.
Yes. Okay. So, all right. Have a good night, folks.
Be sure to tune in again for another fine episode of Fine Tuning with Jim Hill and Drew Taylor.